Hello and welcome to this episode of Neighbors Cooking. I am your chef and host, Mitch, and we have got a really terrific fall, back into fall kind of soup that's hearty and delicious, and I am sure you're going to fall in love with it. I've got no guests tonight, so it's just me, you, and Joe behind the camera. So we've got a small house, and I guess nobody wanted soup. Nobody wanted soup. No soup for you. This is like my only magnet that I have in my house, so it's very appropriate. I have it right above my stove, so if Joe's mean to me, no soup for you, Joe.
I'm hungry.
He's hungry. So we're going to make this white lasagna soup. So if you think about white lasagna, it's basically lasagna, but instead of red sauce, you use a white sauce. And then you put very similar ingredients into it. So let's go over what the ingredients are so we can get them started. This is all going to be done in one pot. So I've got one pot over here on my oven stove. And I'm going to turn it on and start to get it warmed up. All right, so in this recipe I've already cooked my noodles. So I took some just Barilla noodles and broke them up, took them out, broke them up. The recipe only calls for half a box. It didn't look like enough noodles to me. So I cooked the whole box because odds are it's just going to sit in my pantry and I'm not going to use them after a while. So I don't want to waste them. So I cooked them all up. I don't have to put them all into the recipe if I don't want to, but I've got them all cooked and cooling here in a bowl. And we'll see how much we need when we put them into our finished product. Into our ingredients we've got 2 boxes. So we've got 64 ounces of chicken broth, bone broth soup. Use the good bone broth. Don't use that, cheap $2 box of broth because there's no flavor to it. It's basically just chicken bouillon. So if you can afford to use the bone broth, do use it. And the difference with regular chicken broth and bone chicken broth is this broth is developed. You know when you get a chicken that's from Costco and you want to make soup stock from it? It's all the bones and everything you put into that water and celery and carrots all, and you end up blending together. That's what bone broth is. Chicken broth or chicken broth is just basically bouillon and water. So do some good flavor for yourself. If not, add a little extra garlic, salt, and pepper, and it'll be just fine. So we've got our 2 boxes of chicken broth. We've got our lasagna noodles already cooked. If you wanted to do this by not cooking the noodles, you could certainly put the raw noodles into your soup base and let it all cook together. In the interest of time, we just can't do that on the show tonight. But you could actually put the uncooked noodles into the soup and let it all cook together for about 20 to 30 minutes, and it would be perfect. We've got a cup of portobello mushrooms. We've got about a cup of pancetta. If you don't know what pancetta is, it's just bacon, fancy name for bacon. Then the difference in it is how it's processed. Pancetta is cured, which means you can eat it without cooking it. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully I'm kidding. You can actually eat pancetta uncooked because it's cured. Bacon, on the other hand, is usually smoked and cured. And smoked, so you do need to cook it. It's not cured. So we've got a cup. You can put a little more, a little less, depending where you get it. If you buy it pancetta from the store, you can just cut it up into little tiny cubes. A cup of mushrooms. We've got 1 large sweet yellow onion. We've got about a cup of ricotta cheese. We've got about a pound of sausage. You could use spicy or mild. We're using mild. I know Joe would love spicy, but we're using mild. We've got some garlic, about 3 cloves. We've got about a quarter to half a tablespoon of pepper, and also about the same in salt. And the salt is special. I got a gift today from a friend, Matthew, who was just in Colombia. And this comes from the salt flats in Colombia. So this is Colombian salt. Could be something else, since it's from Colombia. But it's salt. And we've got a cup of heavy cream. We've got basil. We've got some fresh mozzarella cheese or Parmesan cheese, and this entire block is going to go into the soup. Basil, and that is everything. So we're going to get started, and I've already taken the rind off of the Parmesan cheese. So don't buy it in a bag. I tell you that every time I use cheese, buy it by the block. Yes, it's a little more expensive, but what you're not getting is all the plastics that are put on to already pre-processed cheese that you find in the dairy section. So, and this rind, you'll see some recipes where the rind is put into the soup and it simmers. You could do that, but you got to be sure you take it out because it's not going to melt, but it will add some flavor to the base if you want to use it. So we're going to start with the pancetta first. Get that sizzle going. And we're just going to get that going and let it brown up. And while that is browning up, I'm going to move some of these things off to my side in the order that they're going into our recipe. And I'm going to get the onion cut up. So again, I'm using my mandolin here. Where's my little topper? I was going to just now do this without my topper. You know, I'm just no good without a top. So Joe, today the IGLTA started in Palm Springs.
What's that?
The IGLTA is the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association. They're here in town for their international conference. And it brings in a couple thousand people to the city at one of the hardest times to bring people into our city, but right before season. And it's beautiful. We've got a booth there for Palm Springs Pride, and we're promoting Pride and our monument flag raising, which happens this Friday. You're going to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're putting up our Pride flag on Arenas and Indian Canyon. It is going to be the largest flag flying, I think, in the state of California. I don't want to make a statement that's not true, but pretty big, equal to the San Francisco flag and the San Diego flag. And we're so proud to be able to have that, and that our city is supportive of our community in that way. We're going to keep that pancetta till it gets nice and brown. Kind of like crispy bacon, but not as crispy as that. Let's get our onion going. Although you've all heard it, I'm sure, Joe is in charge of feeding all of our volunteers over Pride Weekend and is collaborating with a number of restaurants. We've got Jimmy John's. Yeah. We've got Grocery Outlet in downtown Palm Springs. We've got the Brazilian Steakhouse, Chorisco's. We've got Starbucks. What else do we have? Oh, we've got water coming from the Desert Water Agency to help us out. And those are all of our community partners, and we're so thankful to all of you that are providing food for our volunteers. You know, the one thing we can do for our volunteers, and the one thing clearly that I love, is to feed people. And full bellies equal lots of energy, and it's important. So I'm so thankful, Joe, that you're doing that.
Pleasure.
And he thinks it's going to be easy.
It's easy. I own a catering company.
You did own a catering company. That is true. I was just asking him for some things. You know, I'm doing the Food and Wine Festival coming up in mid-November. And I was going, my thought was I was going to do this shredded pork with my signature barbecue sauce. But when I really started calculating what that was going to take, it was going to take hundreds of pounds of pork. I don't know where I would store hundreds of pounds of shredded pork. Probably in your refrigerator, my refrigerator, and your roommate's refrigerator, and who knows. And it just was going to be, I think, a little bit too industrious. So we're going to try something. We're going to think about some other ideas. But I've got some pulled pork in the fridge from the weekend, Joe, so you're getting some of that to go home. All right, so we've got our pancetta in there. It's nice and brown. I didn't get a bowl. So we're going to do these bit by bit. So the first thing we're going to do is a pancetta, and we're going to take that out of the pan. We're going to leave all the oils in because this is how we're developing soup is developed in layers. All right. So we've got the pancetta out. The next thing we're going to put in is our Italian sausage. Joe's favorite meat. So like I said, you could use mild sausage or you could use spicy sausage. Maybe you make your own sausage. That's a lot of work. We've got a great butcher here in our community, so I like to go to the butcher and get meat. So I go to Stater Brothers because Stater Brothers has an incredible butcher's department. And every time I need a special cut, they can get it for me, or they got a cow in the back. I don't know, but they always have whatever it is I need.
What's that tool you're using?
Ah, that's a good question. I think you can see it on this camera. So this is to help grind hamburger meat. Instead of, trying to do it in little tiny bits as you're putting it in or trying to break it up with a fork, you actually just put this in and turn it, and it crushes the meat. Just like every date I've ever been on.
It's spicy today.
But I think it's crushing their soul. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'm doing. So we're going to get this going. And while that's cooking, we've got our onions that we've cut up. So I just cut these up into small slivers. You could dice it up. You don't want big circle slices, but you definitely want to get it into a good position. So that sausage is going to take a minute. So let's shred our cheese. So I've got this handy dandy little shredder that actually, with a push of a button, you can change it so that you've got a better grip on it. And we're just going to shave this down. Takes a minute. It's okay if it blocks apart. Don't leave the cheese out of your fridge when you're going to grate it, because it will start to soften up, especially if it's a softer cheese. Maybe Parmesan would be okay, but leave it in your fridge until you're really ready to use it. Nice, nice, nice. I'm afraid there'll be no extra left over for you tonight, Joe. Well, maybe a little piece, so I don't grate of your cheese. And there's a couple different, there's quite a few different varieties of Parmesan cheese. So pick your favorite. There's a little piece for Joe. Good, huh? All right. Come on, there we go. And I love this little shredding container. Makes it a little neater when you're doing it. So let me check over on this sausage. So just like in lasagna, you would have sausage, you would have pancetta, you would have mushrooms, you would have onions. So these are all the same similar ingredients that you would have in your lasagna, including the noodles and the ricotta cheese. We're just turning it into a soup. So a fancy chef would say, we're deconstructing a lasagna today, and we're going to turn it into a lasagna soup. That's something Gordon Ramsay would say, but with an accent and attitude, all right? So, but basically that's what we're doing. We're taking a recipe that you would already be familiar with, taking the ingredients, deconstructing its composition, how you put it together. And indeed, cutting down a lot of time. Lasagna takes hours because you got to layer it, you got to bake it, and it's not a process that you could do in 30 minutes for your family. And this soup, you certainly can do. And I got one little piece left for Joe because I'm not going to grate my fingers down. Makes him happy.
Feed the animals.
Feed the keep the team happy. Let's just say that, and feed the animals. All right, so we've got that, we've got that. How's our sausage doing? It's looking good, but I want to grind it down just a little bit more with this grinding tool. Because we don't want big, huge chunks. But I will say the barbecue sauce I made the other day came out really nice. I have been working on a medjool date barbecue sauce for a long time. And the thought of doing this presentation at Food and Wine Festival made me really sit down. And I tasted and I tasted, and I think I came up with really a very delicious taste. So I'll let Joe.
Why dates?
Because I wanted to use something that was native to Palm Springs, since it's the Palm Springs Food and Wine Festival. So I like to source everything locally that I'm getting as local as it can, and cook with things that are in season. And we're coming into this part of the year that so many great things are coming into season. So we had, when we did Leadership Coachella Valley, we were down on one of the farms, Zest Farms.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the owner down there, and we're thinking about doing a show live from the farm and actually going out and picking stuff out of the garden and slicing it up and doing a little show there, probably with some guests. We'll see, but I love that idea. It's a lot to move the show, cameras and everything, to a whole nother location because they're all so perfectly set in my kitchen. So we may have to make an investment and buy a couple extra remote cameras. All right, Benny, I need you out of my way. That is still doing its thing there. Let's have a look. All right, so we've got this nice sausage. It's nice and brown. So now we're going to take the sausage out. We can mix it right in with the pancetta. So a lot of this oil will go away at some point, because we're also trying to be kind of healthy and nutritious on this. And we're not doing too bad. A bowl of this soup will probably be about 500 calories. Really not bad. All right, leaving that oil in there, we're going to take our onions next. And you'll see I haven't used the salt yet, and there's a reason for that, because we want to put the salt in the onions. Why do we put salt in onions, Mitch?
Why?
It helps absorb the water, the moisture out of the onions, and it allows them to caramelize better. So you just put, half a tablespoon in there, half a teaspoon, whatever. Not a lot of salt. And we're going to get those to caramelize. So we're basically building our soup base here. So let's turn this up just a little. And you don't need to turn the onions constantly, just kind of let them sit there for a minute. And then what I've got left is to take the fresh basil, and we're just going to take them off of the stems. A little bit longer of a process, but depending on the stem, you can take it and you can pull it from top down, and it'll help you get the basil off a little bit faster. So let's find a good one. There's a good one. So take it. Not so much a good one, maybe a good one, and just, whoops, didn't work. Doesn't always work. But they're big enough. It's not like thyme, where it's such a small, little, delicate herb. You can pull these off. And this is live basil we bought. I've got a basil plant out here in the backyard. The problem is it gets so big that it becomes tough. And I've had a lot of compliments on one of the photos we just put up that had me in front of a big basil, and look, it's a beautiful bush, but most of it's unusable at this point because the stems have gotten so thick and it becomes bitter. But it looks pretty, it still smells pretty, so but I would not encourage you to grow your basil plants that large if you're really going to plan on cooking with them. But if they're great backyard decoration and the smell that comes from them is delicious. We're not going to, well, we might chop this basil up a little bit. All right, there we go. So, got our basil, and I think one of the things I forgot to mention was lemon, and the lemon zest is more to go over the top of the soup when we have put it all together on top of the ricotta. So when we're done, we're going to put in a spoonful of ricotta, and then we're going to put some lemon zest right over the top of it, and it will be delicious. All right, got our basil there. Let's see how our onions are doing. Benny, you are just trying to trip me tonight. Onions are doing well. I'm going to turn them up a little bit. There we go. So when the onions are about halfway to where you want them to be, Benny, out of my kitchen, please. Go. The only time I get any attention from this dog is when I'm cooking. He's not a snuggler. He'll sit next to me, but he's not a snuggler, but he is a dog vacuum. So we're going to put the garlic and we're going to put that pepper in, and we're going to let that kind of blend. And the reason you don't want the garlic in too soon is because garlic will burn. So, but we can see it's just getting nice and caramelized now. Can you see that, Joe? So caramelized just means caramel in color. So as you're cooking your onions and they start to get that nice brown color, that's caramelization. Purple onions won't caramelize like white or sweet yellow or yellow onions will. So if you're going to use this recipe, you could use any one of the yellow onions. You don't want to use purple or the red onions because they will not caramelize as well, if at all. And this is a step you don't really waste or you don't want to skip on because that flavor, the flavor that we're developing at this point, each have their unique tastes. And so we want to make sure that you really bring out the flavor in the onions. It absorbs all of the flavors that were in the pan. There we go. So the next piece we're going to put in is our mushrooms. These are baby bellas, that are sliced. You could use almost any mushroom or combinations of mushrooms. We're going to put those in with the onions, and those are going to sweat down pretty quickly. And they're going to absorb any of the extra moisture that we might have had still in the pot. So this becomes the basic base of our soup. It is the base, not the basic, it is the base of our soup. So we want those, I'm going to add a little bit more salt. And look at that. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Everyone loves the sizzle except for my sound guy. He's not a big fan of it. And Sonny, you got injured. Our sound guy, Sonny, got hit on an e-bike in the Ralph Shopping Center today, and the guy ran away. So if anyone saw someone get hit on an e-bike, call the Palm Springs Police Department, let them know you saw it, because you are a coward for leaving my friend in the street so injured. They had to wire his mouth. He lost 3 teeth. His face is all scraped up. So shame on you for leaving, and I hope they find you because it is wrong. You need to take responsibility for that, because now you're in more trouble when they find the cameras. Yeah. Because then they will find you. There's cameras everywhere. There's no escaping it, especially here in Palm Springs, and they're going to find you. So do the right thing. Stand up, because my friend got hurt, and I think it's a shame. And if you don't know you hit him, look at the front of your car. You'll probably see the dent. if you're wondering where the dent came from. All right, so we've got, smells so good, the mushrooms and the garlic. And now we're going to add in our chicken broth. And I'm bringing this up to a high flame, which I can see, because we want to bring this up to a boil. There we go. That's number one. And number two. So this is probably enough for 8 people, this pot of soup. If you cut it in half, just use 1 box. I would keep all the other ingredients intact though, because then it just makes it even more hearty. Let's stir that all together. And I want to get a little taste to see if we have to adjust the salt. So good. All right, we've got that in, we've got that in. Next thing we're going to put in are the pancetta and the sausage. We're going to put that back in. And if you don't eat sausage, you could certainly use, if you don't eat pork sausage, you could use a chicken sausage, or you could use turkey, you could use ground chicken, or you could use the Beyond Beef if that's your next alternative if you're a vegetarian. And you could get away from the pancetta. There's really no substitution for pancetta or bacon, there's just not. But you could certainly complement this with the chicken. You could add more cheese, you could add more basil, you could add more onions to help develop that flavor a little bit more. But as a general rule, it's the sausage and the bacon that makes this. Oh, Joe, you're going to love this
I'm so excited.
soup. Next thing we're going to put in is our noodles. Like I said, so I was cooling these. I put olive oil on them so they wouldn't get all clogged together. So let's put our noodles in and see where we're at. So probably half the box is all you need, because we don't want to overstuff it with noodles. And put all that together. So you can see it's becoming heartier and heartier as we put more and more into it. And now we want to put our basil in. And I'll probably want to get a little bit more basil for the top. And the one thing I did forget to buy tonight, which the manager over at Vaughn's is going to hate me because I was supposed to buy more French bread. I've told her I'd start making some recipes for the fall that need French bread, and she's going to come on the show and we're going to do a French bread recipe. But you know, this basil comes already in dirt, so it's pulled out this way. This is how it's harvested. You could actually take this and put it in the ground, and you could actually grow basil from it. So if you're thinking about doing that, you certainly can. Or it's a great starter plant if you're just going to put it in the ground right from its start and not use it in anything immediately. If you're going to keep it, don't keep it in the fridge a long time. You could stick it in a bowl with some water in it because it is live, and it does need water. Oh. So good. I am doing my happy fall soup dance. And I like it so much there might not be any soup for you. Next thing we're going to add in is our cream. Before it really starts to boil, because we don't want the cream to curdle. So we've put in this cream. So now we've got white soup. And we are almost at the point of serving. So let me grate this lemon. We have all these great lemon trees here in the back, and lime trees and grapefruit trees. There we go. All right, let's get a bowl. Can you see that, Joe? This, I know. I know.
Okay, just want to make sure you don't forget an ingredient.
I know. I said at the end we put ricotta cheese in. Joe's like going like this. What's that? What's that?
It looks like butter.
It's like a 4-year-old in the kitchen. All right, so we can see this, Joe, okay? Yep, all right. So the next thing we're going to put into our soup is this wonderful Parmesan cheese. And we would just put a little in, stir it, put a little in, stir it. We don't want it to get clumpy. There we go. Mix and mingle. And there's all the cheese. So it's about a cup of cheese, 8 ounces. There we go. Now this isn't meant to be a thick soup, so it's going to get a little thicker once the cheese starts to melt up in it. But it's not designed to be a very thick soup. I gotta say, this is really good. All right, so we've got that cheese melted in. Perfectly blended. We've got all these beautiful ingredients. And I think we are ready to serve it. Let me get another towel here. All right. Can you see that? So we've got this beautiful bowl of soup here, and as if we look through it and just ladle through it here, you can see we've got sausages and our noodles and our cheese all melted. And it will be very filling. So, where's my ladle? There we go. So, let's get some of these great ingredients in there. All right. So on top of this, we're going to take that ingredient that Joe was busily pointing at. We're going to take a dollop of our ricotta cheese, put it right up here on top. We're going to take some of our lemon zest, sprinkle it over, and a little piece of basil. And there we have it. White lasagna soup. So, who's going to taste it? Is Joe going to taste it? Are we going to? Joe's like, over here, me, pick me, pick me. He's like a contestant of The Price is Right. Me. Come on down. There you go. You know where to look.
Yeah.
Hot.
That is the bomb. Ooh, the basil just pops
Right?
in there. Ooh, bye.
Bye. So that is our show. I know we went a little bit over today, and I apologize for that, about 6 minutes. If I have no guests, I talk too much. So I want to thank you all for joining us on the show. Remember, the IGLTA is in town. We've got the Palm Springs Pride Block Party this Friday, where we're raising that monument flag. And then Pride on the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of November. And as always, thank you. Be sure and follow us, like us, share us. And remember, there's always a place for you in my kitchen. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.